What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by, once again, only one Titan of the industry this week. That Titan's name is not Dame, it's Jurg. Dame is still hungover, I guess, from Vegas, maybe, but he couldn't make this week. So, as always, I guess we fill in for him, Jurg. Some would say that this podcast is exponentially better without him, but I'm not those people though. I'm not those people. What's up, Jurg? How are you doing this week?
You're just citing sources, brother.
Just trust me, bro.
Just source. Trust me, bro.
Yeah.
No. Source. I made it up. No, I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. It's a good week. We were just talking about it. It is hot. It is hot outside for both of us. So we're just trying to survive this absolute heat. And I don't think there's any better way than to survive the heat than to take it to the ice. And because we're going to talk about some hockey today.
Phenomenal segue. That's right, Jurg. From what my understanding is, there's a plethora of NHL news that you're going to get to. We got free agency, and then there was a draft, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not so much going to talk about the draft in detail. There were a couple of draft day trades that I will kind of slide in when it comes to the free agency discussions. But yeah, free agency is, as we're recording this, it's only day 2 of free agency, and already a lot of names have been signed.
All right. Well, that's stuff to talk about. I'm pretty sure you're going to go through all the important ones. So mostly it's going to be NHL dominated this week, but there is some interesting news, some smoke, if you will, regarding Donovan Mitchel's future. Possible trade could occur. We'll go through the details after NHL. We don't want to go too ahead of ourselves, but hopefully, we have some breaking news during this podcast, just like we did a few weeks ago when Kevin Durant demanded a trade while we were recording. Hopefully, we could strike gold twice.
Yeah.
I'm not banking on it because usually when a star is about to be traded, it takes a bit. And this news just leaked yesterday in terms of like what's brewing. So hands up, fingers crossed. I just don't have that much faith. But enough lollygagging. Let's get to it, Jurg. What do you got for me?
Well, brother, it's hockey free agency time, like I talked about in the pod. The last couple weeks as we've gone through the NBA free agency as well. And really, even though hockey free agency doesn't get as much fanfare, and kind of for a while, it has always been NBA free agency, and even NFL free agency being the more entertaining one. This NHL free agency cycle has certainly been intriguing to say the least because of just a handful of players who have been at the forefront of the news conversations in regards to where they could go, the impact they could have on a team. And we've had a couple surprises. We've had a couple of last second, I don't want to call it last second decisions, but guys potentially staying or going in places where people just didn't expect. So this has certainly been an interesting free agency cycle so far. I'm just going to start out with the top names that were available coming into the free agency market and where most of them have signed since. Because a good chunk of like anyone that's read like top 10, top 15 like names on this free agency class, like a majority of the guys have actually now signed on those lists with a handful of stragglers still remaining. So I'm going to run through a full of names before we get into the nitty gritty in terms of other factors. So I'm going to start with forwards, and probably the overall top player that was available in free agency this cycle was Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Hockey, as he has been called by NHL fans. And he's not a partier, I promise.
Okay, all right.
He's actually a good player. Johnny Gaudreau had a career year last year with the Calgary Flames. He had 115 points, and I believe his 5-on-5 numbers were excellent. I want to say off memory, I think he had 92 points on the even strength, which is 5-on-5, and he was the first player to have at least 92. At least I believe the final number was 92 for him. He was the first player to have over 90 even strength points in a single season since Jaromir Jagr did it back in, I've heard it was the late 90s or very early 2000s. So it'd been 2 decades since a player was having the kind of year 5-on-5 that Johnny Gaudreau was having. And he was part of Calgary's success. They won their division and they made it to the second round of the playoffs before they unceremoniously got knocked out by the Oilers. And a lot of people were wondering where he was going to go. It was said that just before free agency started, Calgary offered him a big contract to keep him. It was going to be north of $10 million a year in terms of the cap hit, overall money. The NHL does it differently. You kind of talked about last week when you talk about contracts, Chris, in the NHL. The way the NHL has it structured is that the number you see, the cap hit is going to be the same towards a team year by year, but the money payout is going to be very much different. Unlike the NBA and the NFL, where it's like, for the most part, the number you see for a cap hit is what the guy is getting paid to an extent. The NHL is different. A guy could have a $5 million cap hit, but he could actually be making $7 million that season in terms of the money he's getting. Or he could have a $5 million cap hit, but he's actually only making $2.5 million because it might be the final year of his deal and most of the money's been paid out. So that's kind of the way the NHL works. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is mainly the cap hits, because immediately not all the contract details are out in terms of like how much money guys are getting in the forefront. So I just want to make that clear as we talk about the contracts that have been doled out so far in free agency. But what I will say is that day one of NHL free agency was very, very rich for these players this offseason in particular. Day one of free agency in terms of total contract dollars signed, Chris, $926 million.
Oh, is that a
Yep.
record for NHL?
It might be. I'd have to go back and check what last season was, but this one it feels like the biggest number we've seen in a while. So it's a good job, and so far 42 million has been doled out here in day two. So we're very close to $1 billion in total contract given out to guys so far. Which, as a hockey fan, of course, I'm very happy to see that, because it means more money for the players, and that's
Right.
what we're all about. We're all about everyone getting their money on this show, and one day this show will make it as well. But
Yeah.
we're a ways from that. But let me not waste any more time. Let me go back to the original point. Johnny Gaudreau, he signed what I have to say is the most shocking free agency move of the offseason, even if I include NBA free agency. And that is him going to the Columbus Blue Jackets on a 7-year deal worth about $68.25 million. This is another little quirk in the NHL. Guys sign for kind of weird dollar amounts sometimes. But Johnny Gaudreau signs for 7 years, essentially $68 million, well over about $9.5 million average cap hit per year. What's interesting about this, so the whole thing with Johnny Gaudreau, I said it earlier, a couple minutes ago, 100-point season, very successful for the Flames this year. Good player overall, right? Calgary really pushed hard to try to keep him. And the writing's been on the wall for a while now that he was going to leave Calgary, despite the fact that they pushed hard to keep him, despite the fact that he had been there since he started in the league, despite a lot of factors. Johnny Gaudreau was looking like he was going to leave. And the first signs that everyone was pointing to was ever going to be New Jersey, or the New Jersey Devils or the Philadelphia Flyers, because a lot of people, and this was, I think, even said by someone from his camp, that he wanted to stay close to home. He wanted to go back near his family. But he signs in Columbus, Ohio, when his family is in Philadelphia, which is weird. So I will preface it by saying that, so when it comes to the Philadelphia Flyers, apparently the contract they offered, this is from reports, and I might be mixing up what the Devils and the Flyers offered him. So if I'm a little bit incorrect on this, forgive me. But the Flyers offered him very close to the Columbus Blue Jackets dollars, but just under it. And the problem with the Flyers is that their whole cap situation is not good. They have a rough cap situation, so it wasn't necessarily easy for them to offer Gaudreau his contract demands. They would have had to make more moves happen, and clearly Gaudreau just didn't want to wait for that. The New Jersey Devils had offered him a very similar amount, if not a little bit more than what Columbus did. And Calgary, Chris, this is how badly he wanted to leave. So I just told you he signed for about 7 years, $68 million, right? Calgary's contract offer to him was 8 years, $84 million. It would have been an average of $10.5 million per year on the cap, and $84 million over the 8 years. And I got to imagine probably early on in that contract would have been where most of the money would have gone. But he essentially took just off of base contract value, he took a $16 million pay cut to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Damn.
Yeah. Really weird move by Gaudreau.
Very
really
strange.
Yes, honestly, extremely strange to me. I didn't understand it at all. I don't understand why. He said he wanted to get closer to family. You would have waited then for Philly to try to clear the cap space to get you, or you would have just signed in New Jersey. New Jersey is not that far from Philadelphia, but he decides to sign with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And again, I think the Devils offered him a very similar, if not maybe just slightly more of a number. So money can't be the reason here. Family can't be the reason here. And I mean, I don't think he's said a quote about it, but if you're talking about competing, you were just on a team that won their division last year. Now, yes, they got smacked in the second round royally, but the Flames, for as much as he wanted to get out of Canada, because let's be real here, this man just wanted to get the hell out of Canada. Now, signing in Columbus is a very bold move.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I think we can echo the sentiment, Chris. You'd have to pay us $68 million to want to live in Columbus, Ohio, but irregardless. It just became really clear here that he wanted to get out of Canada, and I think the first team that offered to him probably got it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Columbus was just the first team and they just kept it quiet this whole time somehow. because I just don't understand. From a money perspective, the Devils and the Flames offered more. From a family perspective, you would have waited for the Flyers, or you would have just signed with the Devils because they're close to your family. Or from a winning perspective, now the Flyers are a complete shit show, let's be real here, so maybe not them, but the Devils have a really nice young core that they're building. Goudreau probably could have helped make them a playoff team next year, and the Flames won their division last year. So on all three of those on perspectives, I don't understand why he signed. I just really don't get why he decided to go to Columbus at the end of the day. I mean, good for the Blue Jackets. This has been a franchise that has lost superstars the last couple of years. So, like, it is good for them. Rick Nash wanted to leave. He got traded. Pierre-Luc Dubois wanted to leave. Artemi Panarin and guys like that left. Matt Duchene, Sergei Bobrovsky, they all left in free agency. Like, Patrick Laine is the RFA right now. It's kind of clear that he doesn't want to stay in Columbus long term. I think he's just trying to reach unrestricted free agency. Good for them that they were able to get a guy like Johnny Gaudreau to sign with them. And only God and Johnny Gaudreau know, Chris, why he decided to sign with them, because I cannot tell you a singular reason why he decided to. So the most confusing, confounding, I don't know what the word would be there, but the most, strange, like you said, Chris, move of the offseason happened there with Johnny Gaudreau. So enough time with that, and guys just making decisions to sign somewhere for a lot of money and to just lose. This is a Bradley Beal / Damian Lillard type move, except he didn't stay with his team.
Oof.
Yeah, it's imagine Beal signed this contract but left. That's essentially what this
Damn.
Yeah, it's really weird. So moving on to the rest of the free agents list, because we got a lot of guys to cover here. Nazem Kadri, the top available center on the market, is still there. He had 87 points during the last regular season. Honestly, if he had played the full year, he would have gotten to 100 points. So this is a guy who proved that he could potentially be a top line center. I'm saying potentially because for a lot of his career, he's mainly been a second line guy. He's played with other supremely talented pieces. How is he going to perform as a first line player? That's a wait and see. But he also had 15 points in the playoffs, including the game-winning goal in Game 4 to help the Avalanche take a 3-1 lead. And of course, when guys perform well on the team that just won the Stanley Cup, they're going to get paid. Someone's going to pay Nazem Kadri, and it's probably going to happen. Probably going to happen by the time this podcast episode actually gets posted. So stay tuned next week. You'll probably get a Nazem Kadri update there. Claude Giroux, the former Philadelphia Flyer, performed extremely well when he was traded from the Flyers to the Panthers. Played great for them in the playoffs. He had 8 points in their 10 playoff games. In his playoff career, he has 81 points in like 92 games, I want to say. So this is a performer when it matters the most. And he decided to sign with the Ottawa Senators for a 3-year deal. It is about $19.5 million. So that's a 6.5 yearly cap hit. Giroux is just a great veteran. I think a lot of people thought he was slowing down scoring-wise, but if you can get 60 points out of him like he did this past season, and if he had played the full 82 games on the Panthers with what his scoring pace was, he would have gotten to 70, 75. Like, he's still a very good offensive player, and he's a solid defensive player. He's a great veteran for an Ottawa team that has made some strides this offseason. We'll get to them in more detail in a few. But yeah, Claude Giroux, it wasn't a surprise because he's from Ottawa, so this is a hometown boy. So Johnny Gaudreau left Calgary to go somewhere. Claude Giroux leaves America to go to Canada. So there's that. I think Johnny Gaudreau is American, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong, but I want to say there's probably a reason why he left Canada, because I don't know about you, Chris. I know Canadian tax dollars are a lot. I'm not turning down $15 extra million. Just not for me, Clive, but to each his own, I guess. The New York Rangers lost some pieces in this offseason, so I'll just say the 3 guys that they lost here. They lost Andrew Kopp, a very good player. He played a lot in the top 6 of them, had a career high, I think, in goals and points this season, and performed extremely well in the playoffs. He went to Detroit on a 5-year deal worth just over $28 million. Ryan Strome, again, another guy who's played in the top 6 for the Rangers a lot the last couple seasons. He went to the Anaheim Ducks for a 5-year, $25 million deal. And then Frank Vetrano, good player who brought a lot of energy to the Rangers in the playoffs, left to also, I believe he actually also signed with the Anaheim Ducks on a 3-year deal. So Anaheim poaching a couple of Rangers players there. But the Rangers, they lost some guys, but they gained a big piece as well. And this guy is easily going to be their new second line center going forward. But Vincent Trocheck, the well known in hockey circles, but still somehow underrated to many. A 7-year deal. This is the thing, 7-year deal for Trocheck, worth a cap hit of just over $5.6 million per year. Total contract is just under $40 million. 39.375 mil. Interesting to say the least. It was kind of expected that the Rangers were going to lose a lot of their pieces in this playoff run, and you can't keep everybody. So it made natural sense that they were going to lose Strome and Kopp. I think those guys' markets played out accordingly, maybe even a little bit less than I think a lot of people were projecting them to get. But at the end of the day, they both get paid, and the Rangers also get a guy who plays kind of similar to the both of them. Trocheck is a very good two-way player. So for the Rangers fans that are worried, Chris was on the Rangers bandwagon in this past playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Um, he played well last season for Carolina. He's a great two-way player. He could get some goals. I think he's had at least a couple 20-goal seasons in his career. If not, he's at least a 15-goal scorer. Plays a strong two-way game. He's going to fill in the second line center spot immediately. And for losing the pieces the Rangers did, this is more than just a consolation prize. I think the only concern will be it's a 7-year deal, and when we start getting into these long-term deals here, that's when you gotta kind of sweat a little bit in hockey. When you get these guys on 6, 7, 8-year deals, you start to wonder. I think the one bright side I'd say about this is that Trocheck is not like a overly physical player. He's very smart. He's a great fundamental guy, and he works around. He works the defense areas of the game very well. So I don't think this contract should age poorly. Now, might it? Who knows? But I on paper, this should be a good deal for the Rangers, and I think it is a good deal for the Rangers as of now. We'll wait to see how it plays out, but a good deal for the Rangers considering what they lost early in the summer. And then really the last big forward I'm going to mention here, who actually just got signed this morning, or maybe in the very late minutes of day one of free agency, was Andre Palat. He signed a 5-year, $30 million deal with the New Jersey Devils. So the Tampa Bay Lightning, the former defending back-to-back Cup champions, now the runner-up as the Colorado Avalanche won this past summer, technically it ended in the summer. The Lightning lose Palat. He was in Tampa his whole career so far. He had a great playoff run. It was being abundantly clear that Tampa, they were trying to clear some cap, but ultimately at the end of the day, unable to keep one of the most consistent faces of the franchise for about a decade now. Palat's been there for a long time, and he signs a 5-year deal with New Jersey. Great player, great team guy. He's going to fit well with the young guns on that team, and I think he's going to slot into the top 6 well, whether they put him with Hughes or with Nico Hischier. New Jersey, kind of like I mentioned before, when it came to Gaudreau, they're a nice young team. They got some pieces there. They're trying to make a run, and I think Palat will be a good addition to this team that is trying to take that next step in a very difficult division. New Jersey has a lot of work cut out for them because they're in a pretty tough division that has had some perennial playoff contenders, and it takes a lot to rejoin the playoff picture in the NHL. Like you have to really overcome some teams in the regular season and outperform a lot of good teams. So we'll see if New Jersey can do that. That wraps up the forwards. Defensemen, there were a couple notable names that signed in day one. Josh Manson, on the defending Stanley Cup champion, now Colorado Avalanche, he re-signed with them on a 4-year, $18 million deal. It was actually rumored for a bit that he was going to leave Colorado and he may have returned to Anaheim. But clearly the defending Cup champions saw how much value he brought and they wanted to keep him, so he stays there. Ben Sherratt, who was on Florida to end last season, he ends up leaving them. He was a trade deadline pickup for the Panthers, not late last season, like I said, at the trade deadline. He was viewed as a valuable piece because on the Montreal Canadiens team that ended up making the Stanley Cup final in the 2021 season, he played a significant role there. But it was just clear that, on Florida, he didn't make that same impact. So the Panthers don't keep him. He goes to the Detroit Red Wings now on a 4-year deal worth $19 million. And then the last name worth noting that got signed was Nick Leddy at 4 years, $16 million. John Klingberg is the top defenseman left on the market. He was the top defenseman coming into the market. A very good two-way player, a guy that I don't know. I don't understand how people have underrated him. Maybe because this is a weird stigma in the NHL where guys have been around for so long that you kind of forget about them and you kind of forget how good they are. But John Klingberg is a very talented defenseman, can get you 40 points in a season, plays really good defense. He could play the power play, play the penalty kill, good 5-on-5. He's been forgotten about in Dallas, which is weird because Dallas has been at least a pretty good team the last couple of years, say for last season. So I don't know why people have underrated him. I don't know why people expect that he's not going to get a good deal. I think someone's going to eventually pay him. Is it a little bit shocking he didn't get signed? Not necessarily. I think, because Kadri also didn't sign because Palat took a little bit because Johnny Gaudreau was signed late in day one. I don't think it's necessarily a shock. It's just about, probably where he's going. But I expect, again, I think Klingberg and Kadri will both get signed by the time we post this episode. And I think I'll be talking about their signings next week on the show. At least that's my projection. And I guess the goalies, it was a pretty thin goalie market. It was only 2 names that were really there. The New York Rangers had traded their backup Alexander Georgiev to the to the Colorado Avalanche, excuse me, and that was a telltale sign that Colorado was just going to allow Darcy Kemper to go. He signs with the Washington Capitals on a 5-year deal worth just over $26 million. Ilya Samsonov, who was one of the Capitals guys in net this past season, he leaves to Toronto on a 1-year deal, and they also traded Vitek Vanacek, who was their other netminder, so a complete reset button in the goalie room for Washington. And then finally, the last maiden name for goalies, Jack Campbell. It was a whole saga between him and the Toronto Maple Leafs on if they were going to pay him where he was going to go. Just before free agency started, Toronto traded for Matt Murray from the Ottawa Senators, and that essentially put the nail in the coffin on him coming back. So that ended it. But he does stay in Canada, Chris, because he signs with the Edmonton Oilers, the team that has two of the last couple of MVPs in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Has well, kind of a spoiler, but they were able to retain Evander Kane. Actually, he signed his deal, much anticipated on where he was going to go. He ultimately elected to stay in Edmonton on a 4-year deal, I believe it was. Edmonton made a deep playoff run. They made a surprise run to the Western Conference Finals where they got swept by Colorado. They clearly want to return and make an impact here, ultimately speaking. And signing Campbell is the way to go. Best goalie that Edmonton has had in a while. Like for a good bit, the Oilers have been a franchise in flux. They have very much needed to surround Connor McDavid and now Leon Draisaitl with talent, and it looks like they're starting to do that well. Signing Evander Kane to his 4-year deal, getting Jack Campbell here in free agency, I think was very good pickups for a team that for any NHL fans that do listen, their goalie room last year was Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. Now Jack Campbell's one of the two goalies you got. Pretty good if you're Edmonton. And they also kept Brett Kulak in the fold. Well, got Brett Kulak in the fold. I don't know if it was a good deal. That could be the one bad deal that Edmonton has signed so far. But that's a wait and see. But I do think it's very much an upgrade in net for the Oilers, who have needed that ever since they had McDavid. And overall, that's just about it. I guess the last name that I didn't mention with the forwards, because he actually re-signed in the dying hours before free agency officially started, but Evgeny Malkin, it was very much highly rumored that he was going to leave the Pittsburgh Penguins, that he was at an impasse because this is a completely new regime and that this regime was looking to move forward. But I'm assuming Sidney Crosby made a phone call and said, Gino's staying. So the 3-time Stanley Cup champion, third in franchise history in like points, goals, assists, everything, because Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux have also played there. He stays with the Pittsburgh Penguins on a 4-year deal worth just north of $24 million. Pittsburgh's happy. Malkin's happy. Everyone's happy. Yinzers can rejoice because the Steelers are going to be bad. So you got to hope that the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be good this next season for you. So there's that. So that was the top names that were available coming into free agency that have so far signed, and a couple of stragglers left. But for the most part, all the big names have signed. At this point, it's more so depth signings that are going to occur.
Well, then, Jurg, you have teams like the Titan teams, I'd call them. Two teams that were in the Stanley Cup final. We get the Avalanche and the Lightning. I know you mentioned the trade for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but what have they been doing this free agency period? Did they get better? Did they get worse, for lack of a better term?
So I'm sure a lot of people hope that they technically got worse because, so they traded one of their key blue liners over the last little bit in Ryan McDonough just before the draft to clear some cap space. They traded him to the Nashville Predators. I have to check to see if they ended up keeping the player that they got back in the deal. They may have bought out Philippe Meyer, so I have to double check on that. But really, what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done so far in this free agency, Chris, they have mainly focused on retaining their own guys and just filling out the roster the way it is. The Tampa Bay Lightning have gone on a spending spree, but not to sign other players for the most part. They made a couple depth signings that I actually kind of like in Vladislav Nemesnikov and Ian Cole. I think are both very good pieces to just slot into that team in that lineup. Jan Rutta left, like I said, Andre Palat left, but the big thing for this team, Chris, was that they decided to keep their guys in the fold, and they signed 3 of their players to 8-year contract extensions. Defensemen Eric Chernak and Mikhail Sergachev. Chernak signed an 8-year deal with a $5.2 million cap hit, so that is over $41 million for him. Mikhail Sergachev gets $8.5 million per year in terms of average, so his contract, I believe it is $68 million. And then Anthony Cirelli signs a deal, 8 years for $6.25 million per year in terms of cap hit. So his contract, I believe, is 8 years, $48 million. A lot of contract extensions for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Clearly, this team, they've made it a point to where if we're going to lose pieces, we need to at least maintain our core. All three of those guys would have been free agents next season, and Tampa Bay said, we're not going to waste time. We're not going to, delay it. We're going to keep our guys in the fold right now. A lot of people, talking about these signings. I think, I saw one person say that it's a one good, one even, and one bad one. I think it's too good. I think two of them are good no matter what. I think one of them is good for the time being before it becomes bad. I think Chernak's contract will eventually become something they need to move because he's kind of a physical player who really, is known for hits and blocking shots. Those contracts don't age well. So for them to make that move, I was kind of surprised. Um, Clearly, because of the flux of their D line, they probably thought, like, let's just keep who we have in the fold for the long term. I'm not the biggest fan of the Chernak signing. I think it'll eventually come back to bite them. But I think for the first couple years of the deal, it should be fine. So not bad for Tampa there. I think the two great ones are Cirelli and Sergachev. I think Cirelli is a steal, actually. I think getting him for just over $6 million for a cap hit is a great deal. Two-way player, very strong defensive forward. I think he's really come into his own on this team, and he's performed so well. I don't understand how they were able to convince him. Like, they did it again. They get one of their guys to sign for below market value, because when Steven Stamkos and Kucherov signed, I think they signed from memory for less than what people expected of them. You look at Vasilevsky now. Vasilevsky is a highly paid goalie, but if he were to hit free agency now, you could actually see him getting $10 million a year. That's how good Vasilevsky's been. But because he's on a long-term deal already, they're saving a little bit of money there. Like, I don't know how this team continues to do it, but they get Cirelli on a steal. Sergachev is the guy where a lot of people are questioning it. Eight and a half million cap hit for him. I think it's going to be a great deal because I think this is the season where he takes a massive leap. He's been a consistent player the last couple of years. I think if he had played, I think he missed a little bit of time this season. And I think last year he missed a little bit of time, but if he plays the full season each year, he gets well over 40 points. I think this is a guy that's talented. I'm personally predicting Mikhail Sergachev is going to have a big season for the Lightning next season. So in terms of did they get better or worse, I would say right now they're even. But if you ask me once again, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning have done nothing this offseason to dispel the fact that I think as of now, going into the year, they're going to be my favorites to win the East yet again. And it's so difficult for a team to do that, to go on a run like this. So maybe it'll finally catch up to them fatigue-wise. But I think on paper, I think they're still my favorite to come out the Eastern Conference, at least for a fourth straight year. So that's pretty wild to say about a team. Meanwhile, the Colorado Avalanche, very similar thing to Tampa Bay. They've just been trying to keep pieces that they can. I mentioned that they kept Josh Manson on the team for 4 years. They traded for Alexander Georgiev from the Rangers. They signed him to a 3-year deal. The two big pieces that they were also able to keep are Turi Lehkonen and Valerie Nichushkin. Both those guys had great playoff runs, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. Nichushkin had, I believe, it was 4 goals in the Cup Final. Arturi Lehkonen had the Stanley Cup Final winning goal in Game 6. So they keep those guys there. 8-year deal for Nichushkin. Kind of a risk because this was really his first great season in the NHL, so they're really banking on him continuing to flourish and being a big piece on that top 6. I mean, sometimes you take a gamble here. We'll see if it pays off for the now Stanley Cup champions, but I think if he can continue his production and get better, if he could become like a 65, 70-point player, I think this whole contract will be worth it. Meanwhile, Arturi Lehkonen, great energy player, middle 6 forward. Playoffs he's performed. And when guys perform in the playoffs, they're going to get paid. And that was the case this go around for Lehkonen. He certainly got his contract. He earned his money with his run in the playoffs for the Avs. So you have that. And the only piece that they really lost worth noting is Andrei Burakovsky. They lost him to the Seattle Kraken. I was actually, funny enough, Chris, like at least for me personally, I would have figured that they were going to keep Burakovsky, and I thought they would have I thought the decision was going to be between Nichushkin and Lehkonen, but it looks like the decision was between Lehkonen and Burakovsky, and they decided to keep Arturi Lehkonen and let Burakovsky go, which kind of makes sense between Nichushkin and Burakovsky, two similar play styles. And I think they just went with the guy that performed way more in the playoffs and for last season overall. So I think that was the mindset that went with Colorado with having to let him go. And at the end of the day, you're a Stanley Cup champion. You're not going to be able to keep everyone. And I think ultimately, I'll say the right choice for now was made. I think Burakovsky getting his money, it's good for him. He made a smart business move for him. And I think Colorado Avalanche, I don't think they got worse. They only really lost, I think, on paper, one piece so far. Nazem Kadri is the next big one. I think he's definitely going to be leaving. I don't see a way that they're able to keep him. So, they're going to lose their second line center from this past year. How they fill in that hole, who knows? Maybe someone on the team steps up to take that role there. Maybe Alex Newhook, if he can take that big step for him. It's asking a lot because he's still so young, but if he's able to take that next step potentially, that would be massive for the Colorado Avalanche. But I don't think either of them got worse so far this offseason. I think both have stayed pat. I think they're both going to be two of the top 5 favorites to win the cup again next year. Simple as that. You said this about the Warriors, Chris. Champions do what champions do. They make championship moves in the offseason. I think both teams have made that this summer.
Wow. All right. That's a big compliment. Big compliment. Big seal of approval, if I may. Well, it's a lot of NHL news this week, Jurg. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be news next week since you said this is only day 2. So, yeah. All right. We move on over to. I mean, do you have anything else, Jurg?
I'll probably save the team breakdowns for next week. I think it's more apropos if we give it another week to really talk about what certain teams did.
Sure.
I guess the last thing I'll mention just briefly is restricted free agents
Mm-hmm.
because I have made a note in the past, and especially last offseason. I don't know if I don't know if anyone will remember this. I mean, if you do listen to the podcast and you do remember this, kudos to you for listening to us for so long. But the whole Jesperi Kotkaniemi thing that happened last year in restricted free agency and Carolina offer sheeted him. There are a lot of really good restricted free agents here, Chris. And
Mm-hmm.
personally, I think at least one of these guys is going to get offer sheeted. In terms of forwards, you have Matthew Tkachuk, Jason Robertson, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Patrick Laine, Josh Norris, and Jesper Bratt. Those are like the top names on forwards. Defensemen, you have Rasmus Sandin and Noah Dobson. I don't understand how Rasmus Sandin hasn't been signed yet. For the good offseason Buffalo's had, it feels like they're taking a step back and not signing him yet. And then in goalie, you have Jake Ottinger. For that. So the reason why I bring up restricted free agents, it's because it's kind of like an unwritten rule in the NHL. And really, it's not a surprise that the MLB and the NHL have the unwritten rules, the two old white guy sports. But the the NHL, it's kind of an unwritten rule where you don't poach other teams' RFAs if they're struggling to sign them. Because, again, for anyone that was listening last year, aside from the Kotkaniemi thing, there was also Elias Peterson and Quinn Hughes on the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver was struggling to figure out how they were going to sign those two for so much of last season. They didn't sign until almost the very end of the offseason, essentially the start of training camp. And like anyone could have offer sheeted them at any point and you could have screwed over the Canucks, but they didn't do it. And this is kind of one of those things where I don't like about the NHL, where there's not enough ultra competitive cutthroatness. I think this summer something's going to change. I think one of these guys is going to get offer sheeted for big money. And I think that a team or two could lose one of their RFAs. And I hope it happens because I think NHL teams and GMs and owners need to be taught a lesson of just pay your goddamn players long term and keep them in the fold so they don't have to hit our restricted free agency. I really hope that this is the summer that forces teams to have to not wait on their restricted free agents the whole time and just pay them. I made the comment before that the Avs and the Lightning, they make championship moves. Granted, some of their guys have hit free agency before, but they always stayed because it looked like they had a plan on what to do. Right now, all these guys being free agents at this point, there is no reason in the goddamn world why Noah Dobson and Jesper Bratt should be free agents right now, RFAs. There is no reason in the world that Matthew Tkachuk should be an RFA, unless he just wants to leave Calgary like Johnny Gaudreau, where if that happens, God bless you, Calgary, you poor souls. But there's no reason some of these guys should be RFAs right now. They should already be signed. So I hope some teams get taught a lesson this offseason that you got to sign your RFAs. But other than that, that's really about it for the hockey news.
Okay. All right. Well, we officially, truly move on over to the NBA land where, Jurg, there's some smoke. There are fire trucks on the way because, the Rudy Gobert trade flipped the NBA upside down. It's on its head, pile driver, tombstone pile driver, Undertaker style. It seems like that trade has put a halt on the rest of the NBA world,
Right.
because it's had a crazy domino effect, and coincidentally or not, it's had a domino effect on the Kevin Durant trade rumors, I believe, as well. Just because the Nets are probably expecting more than what the Jazz got for Rudy Gobert for Kevin Durant. So, and I think teams are kind of waiting for Kevin Durant to be traded before they make their own moves. I mean, Ayton still hasn't been traded, right? We haven't even gone to the Ayton stuff yet, and we predicted he might have been, one of the first chips to fall.
Right.
But I mean, there's some smoke with the Pacers with Ayton, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, sign and trades, which are possible here for restricted free agents, are a little bit tricky. We don't know, but just there's so much. I feel like there's so much going on behind the scenes, but nothing's been finalized. It feels like the first day of free agency in the NBA world it was so long ago, but it was only 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I mean, it feels like a month ago at this point, but I think players were eligible to sign lately, officially, name of the dotted line. But yeah, it's been relatively quiet. Now, after the Gobert trade, everyone was wondering what is going to happen with Donovan Mitchell. And I think immediately everyone's like, okay, the Jazz are going to tear it down. I believe, I don't know who it was for the Jazz, but someone said, yeah, we're not interested in trading Donovan Mitchell right now. We're going to build around him. We're interested in building around him. A few days later or a week later said, yeah, so league executives think that the Jazz are open to having discussions about Donovan Mitchell. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. Last night, Wednesday night, Jurg, I was awake. I don't know if you were, but Shams are the beloved Shams, the Titan Shams.
The
He
GOAT.
tweeted, yeah, he is the GOAT. Shams is the GOAT. In this podcast, Shams is the GOAT. Tweeted something very big. You know, I wouldn't take this into. I mean, everyone's got sources these days, right? But because Shams tweeted it, I was like, all right. So now the train's moving. Quote from Shams or Shams. Sorry, Shams, if you're reading this. The Jazz and Knicks have started discussions on a Donovan Mitchell trade. Sources tell me, and whatever who else. New York has Utah's focus currently among interested teams. Now, Jurg, we've talked about this in the past. If Donovan Mitchell gets traded, the two frontrunners, in my eyes, were the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks.
Yep.
Coincidentally, you're the Heat fan, I'm the Knicks fan. And we both had each other's favorite team as the frontrunner. I thought the Heat were going to be in the front to get Donovan Mitchell. You thought the Knicks would be in the front to get Donovan Mitchell. Turns out, as of now, of course, things can change. You were right, because the Knicks apparently have the Jazz's focus right now. Now, when a team's trading a star player, I think they're looking for young players and picks. I do think the Knicks have both, but it seems like the Jazz are more interested in picks. Coincidentally enough, I'm actually surprised. I thought they would go for young players at least, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get a young player. I mean, they for sure are.
They'll probably get several. They need to make the contracts match.
Yeah. But it seems like from what I've read that they're prioritizing picks more. And I mean, look, they got a haul for Rudy Gobert, so like they're just adding to the treasure chest. I don't know if they're going to be in the Victor Wembanyama. Did I
Yeah.
get it right? Thank
Yeah.
God. Oh, thank God. Finally. Well, a landmark episode. But they might be in the mix for him, tank for Victor, because everyone seems to be doing that now. Rightfully so. But I don't want to deviate away from the point here. Okay, so the Knicks they're in the driver's seat, Jurg. I feel because Shams kind of tweeted this, it's kind of inevitable at this point. So I do believe, and I mean, by the way, there was that video of someone saying, "Yo, D Wade, are you gonna get Donovan to the Heat?" And he said, "Yeah." And
Well,
then
I think the guy said to Miami, and he
yeah,
was like,
to
"Yeah."
Miami, to the Heat, whatever. And then D Wade said, "Yeah." House of Highlights or one of those pages posted it, and D Wade liked it. All right, just free tampering right there. You guys aren't going to lose any picks, I see. Double Agent Wade. I knew this shit would happen. I knew it. Once he went to the Jazz, I'm like, if I lose Donovan Mitchell,
He did it with Jimmy.
it's gonna be because of him. And I'm just like, because I am until this happens, I'm not confident. By the way, I know Miami's always lurking around, but yeah. So the Knicks are in the driver's seat. So initially, this is and look, Knicks Twitter has been caught ablaze because of this, because of the rumors. Because they're like, what are we gonna trade? Some people are, believe it or not, Jurg, and I get it because there's still a Carmelo trade PTSD. All right, so this is my stance on it. And I've seen people that are a little bit hesitant to trade for Donovan Mitchell because they don't want to clear the farm. And I kind of see that. I totally see that. And I was thinking to myself when the rumors started, I think it was before yesterday, I was thinking to myself, this is when it was announced or tweeted that the Jazz are open to conversations. This is before the Knicks thing leaked. This is when the Jazz are just open to talking about Donovan Mitchell trades. I was like, okay, if the Knicks trade for him, it's going to be a plethora of picks, obviously. And I'm thinking to myself, it would have to be of the young core, right? IQ, Obi, Cam Reddish. Who else is there? Am I missing someone? McBride, maybe, and Quentin Grimes. I've read reports from Ian Begley that the Knicks are now looking to include RJ Barrett in discussions, and thank God. RJ Barrett should not be included in those discussions. I need people to understand. The point is to pair RJ with Donovan Mitchell, right? You're just going to go back to square one. Like, Donovan's going to be here by himself. I don't want to hear the Jalen Brunson talk yet. No. Like, it's reverse thinking right there. So, Immediately, I was thinking to myself, a Brunson Donovan Mitchell backcourt, if it were to happen, Jurg. A little bearish on it. A little bearish, because I think, oh my god, the defense would be so ass, and Tom Thibodeau would be killing himself. But, and then of course, you know what it is with homegrown talent. You have a connection with them. So like, if I see Emmanuel Quickly or Obi or Quentin Grimes, or maybe all three of them, if they get traded, a part of you gets broken. Part of me gets broken. I'm like, damn, bro, I love IQ, I love Obi, I love Quentin Grimes. Damn, it's just like we're gonna get rid of all of them. You know, we are kind of clearing the farm here. But then I thought to myself, is a player like Donovan going to be available soon? It's so hard. It's so rare for these to happen. And because it's the Knicks, like Donovan Mitchell, he fits New York, right? He's from here. You know, his dad worked at the Mets. He works with the Mets, I believe. I feel like, would be a great ambassador. He'd be the great face of the franchise for the Knicks. And by the way, in my mind, I'm assuming Julius Randle is going to be gone, and I pray to God he'll be gone. But it's just Donovan Mitchell, a player of his caliber, doesn't become available this often, right? And look, my main trade target, who I think could complement Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett and everyone else, would be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but I don't know what Sam Presti and the Ponzi Scheme Thunder are doing. Shai would have been my number one target, but of course I'm not going to be mad at Donovan Mitchell. So that's why I was a little bit bearish on him. I'm just like, I don't want to give up the farm. I'm willing to part way with the picks that we got. We've gotten a bunch of them that will not like be crazy high. We're not going to make all these picks in general. It's like we have 8 picks, I believe, in the next 2 years. I don't know what the thing is, but like we have a plethora of picks in the coming years. And I'm just like, we don't need all of them. And the point to get all these picks is to eventually make a trade. And now that Donovan Mitchell is available, you have to make that trade. So initially I was hesitant because I'm just like, how does this happen? Well, not hesitant to a point where I'm just like, I don't want it to happen. I was just thinking to myself, I was thinking about the cons. I'm like, okay, there are some pretty big cons because the fit with Jalen Brunson, the backcourt, the defense, meh. But I'm just like, all right, stop being stupid, bro. It's like, it's Donovan Mitchell. You have to make that trade. You have to. And he's 25, I believe. He's 25. He's in the mid-young 20s, so he fits the timeline. And it's just, he is a phenomenal player, and I ultimately I want him. Ultimately, I want him. I'm going to be sad if and when, I'll say if for now, if we get rid of most of our young guys. I'm going to be very sad. But then I'll just talk myself into it. It's like, we just got Donovan Mitchell. Like, this does not happen a lot. So ultimately, I'm excited. I think it'll happen just because I don't think Shams would tweet that if it wasn't like a brewing thing. And yeah, the Knicks finally get their star. I believe this is what Leon Rose was brought here for, to bring a star to the Garden. And Jalen Brunson's not that star. Julius Randle was a fake star. RJ Barrett, I believe, is the homegrown Azor Ahai for all my Game of Thrones fans out there that we drafted that we're going to cultivate. Now, again, some people need some, more convincing about him, but like to actual Knicks fans, like he is our baby boy, right? But if Donovan Mitchell comes, I'm just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is our 3-headed dragon. This is Brunson, RJ, and Donovan. And I love it because we're all in the same age range. I think these are 3 mature, level-headed dudes who know how to tackle New York, who have this certain persona about them that they could handle New York, and I think they could resurrect New York because I think there's something about their characters, and I don't know how much you've seen Knicks games, Jurg, but like RJ Barrett has it in him.
Yeah.
Doesn't get into nonsense, doesn't complain about shit like Julius Randle. Brunson has a winning pedigree from Villanova. And Donovan Mitchell, it just seems like one of the most likable guys, I think Utah got a little. I think the locker room in Utah was just a little too far gone at that point, especially the Rudy Gobert situation. So I got why he was tight. But you're in New York now. You're where you should have been this whole time. I'm all for it now. I'm ready to go to war with these 3. I'm gonna be sad. I hope that the trade package isn't absurd. It's gonna be absurd because it's Donovan Mitchell. You're trading for a star. I just hope it's not like we're depleted like we were after the Carmelo trade. I don't think we are because I do think Leon. We talked about this, Jurg. The contracts the Knicks have been smart with their contracts and accumulating draft picks. I think they've surrounded themselves with people in the front office like Brock Aller, who is a cap strategist, who is a mastermind with like draft capital. I think they have people in the front office that are like conscientious of like, all right, guys, we need to be careful right now. You're going to give up a lot because it is Donovan Mitchell at the end of the day, but let's not do the same mistake we did last time. And I think they're cognizant of that. I think if it's draft picks predominantly, if I had the option to like give them more draft picks than young players, I'd do that. I would simply do that. I think everyone would do that unless you're like OKC. But like, yeah, I think they're in the driver's seat. I think they're going to be smart about this. I think their head's in the right spot. Like, I know a lot of people are saying this. Give up anyone besides RJ, and I understand that. I think the main priority here should be to keep RJ. But again, you don't want a depleted roster, especially because there's uncertainty with what you're going to do with Julius Randle. Like, Brunson, RJ, and Donovan is great. I would like depth because we talk, Jurg. The thing with the NBA is it a star-driven league? Yes, but as you see in the playoffs, war of attrition,
Yep.
depth matters. And I'm not saying that the Knicks are like going to go far and they're going to win championships, but I do think with a team led by RJ, Donovan, and Jalen Brunson, that's not going to be enough to bring you over the hump, right? It'll make you a playoff team, I believe, but then I think the depth of your bench is going to be very important to a team that is just has some up and coming star power, but not enough to bring you over the hump. And I think you need to grow more organically, just a bit more. And look, because you still got Boston to compete with, Milwaukee still is there, Miami's always going to be there. It's not going to be easy. You need to have a deep bench here. Like it's war of attrition, especially when it comes down to the playoffs, man. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're not going to do it. There were sacrifices need to be made. I understand that. And by the way, Jurg, I forgot to mention this. The name that they are interested in the Jazz from the Knicks is Quentin Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Grimes has been having a coming out party in the summer league, and I loved what I saw with him last season, and I was falling in love with him. I'm like, oh god, bro, damn. But it is Donovan Mitchell at the end of the day, right? But it's just like, oh man, I hate to see my young dudes go, bro. I hate to see the homegrown talent leave, but. I mean, Jurg, would you be upset? Would you be upset? I mean, I don't know how much you feel about him, but like, would you be upset if Tyler Hero was gone?
No.
For Donovan Mitchell.
No.
Was it because Tyler Hero's a scumbag or what?
No. It's hold on.
But yeah, I'm done. By the way, yeah. So you go ahead and take it.
We praise City Boys on this podcast. Right. So Tyler Hero is a king on this podcast.
Yes.
Not Tristan Thompson because he's not a good enough player.
Yeah.
But
Having a second kid, by the way.
Yeah, second kid with Kardashian.
Yep.
He's got like 4.
Or 18, yeah.
Or yeah, who knows? It could be like Dwight Howard. He could have like 4 more kids we don't know about.
Anyway.
Yeah. But no, like, so I wouldn't be upset at all if we had to give up Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and insert name of other random player that's not that important to the core to get Donovan Mitchell. I am all for giving up the necessary pieces in order to get the star/superstar at the end of the day. I'm more than willing to do that. And this is kind of why I said that I think the Knicks have the advantage way back when we first talked about this, was because at the end of the day, and it's proved true that the Utah Jazz just want a plethora of picks. And I'm looking at the list of picks that the Knicks could potentially trade. You're not going to be able to trade all of them, but the Knicks have their own 2023 first-round pick. They have Dallas's 2023 first-round pick. There are still some protections on it. They got Detroit's 2023 first, Washington's 2023 first, Milwaukee's 2025 first. Now, granted, a lot of those have protections on it.
Yeah.
And I think the only one that the protections could potentially that Utah may not want, I think, would be the Washington pick, because that pick, and even the Detroit pick, because both those picks, if they aren't gotten within the next 3 or 4 years, they'll become second round picks in like 2027. So some risk there, but they should most likely stay as first round picks. So in terms of the plethora of picks, the Knicks have it. Over the Heat. I have been saying this the entire time. I said this when this podcast was talking about James Harden to the Heat before he got traded to the Nets. I've said this in other conversations regarding the Heat and trades. Miami does not have enough draft picks, man, because they've made so many deals over the years to use their picks for other things. Like, that's just, old moves come back to bite you, and this is what it is when it comes to Miami. And it's even hard, like, I would think if Miami retains its roster, I would think the only thing that Pat Riley would try to do is to try to just get rid of Duncan Robinson's contract. And for that, you're going to have to attach a pick player to it as well. Like, so I'm not surprised that the Knicks are in the lead for Donovan Mitchell, because I expect that, because the Knicks have the most tantalizing package. Like you said, I think it's good the fact that they could potentially not have to give up RJ. And once that is off the table, like once the fact that you can get Donovan Mitchell and not lose RJ.
Yeah.
you make that trade.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
make that
yeah, yeah.
trade happen. No matter. I know that Quentin Grimes, he performed well at the end of his rookie season. He's balling out in summer league. I'm giving up Quentin Grimes
Yeah,
to get
yeah, yeah.
Donovan Mitchell.
For
I'm
sure.
giving up Emmanuel Quickly to get Donovan Mitchell. I'm giving up Obi Toppin to get Donovan Mitchell. Like I'm willing to give up those
What
three guys.
what would be all right, so put the Knicks cap on for a sec, right?
Okay,
What's your cutoff limit for a trade package?
I would say three of the young players,
Okay.
and I mean they got 5 picks out of Gobert, so I gotta believe that they expect 5 picks back.
But I think but they didn't get like good young players though. Besides Beasley, who we can make the argument for. That's why I think the Knicks are offering better quality of young talent,
Mhm.
right? And then because of that, I think you could get away with giving at least like less picks. So
But
I'm
do
assuming
but
maybe
do
3
remember
picks and 2 swaps.
some the thing is some of these picks, Chris, have like these complicated
That's true.
protections.
That's true. That's true.
So if maybe you can convince them, hey, can you take all three of the protected picks, but you get our picks in swaps? I think Utah would listen. So if you're telling me it's three of the Knicks young players, three of the protected first round, well, the 3 first round picks they have that are protected from other teams. So that would be the Dallas, Detroit, Washington. Actually, Milwaukee's is also protected, but I would try to keep at least one of those four. So if you could give up three of those four from other teams, and then 2 to 3 of your own in pick swaps, because then you still technically get a first. It would just be
Yeah.
you'll get the worst one because
Yeah,
Utah's
yeah.
obviously going to keep the better one. Like at the end of the day, that's a pretty good deal for a multi-time All-Star before he's hit his peak, before he's hit his prime. Like I think a lot of people have forgot what the saying is, and it's in order to get something, you have to give something. Like at the end of the day, we need to stop the whole scenario of you don't have to give up that much for stars. We're not in that era. We were talking about this last week, Chris. We were talking about, this isn't the 2011 salary cap with guys like Jalen Brunson and Anthony Simons getting signed. This isn't the 2010 2K NBA trade machine anymore, where you can trade, your seventh, eighth, ninth guys on the roster and you could get the third best guy on another team. That's not how it works anymore. You have to give up pieces. It was set with the Drew Holiday trade package. It's a new market now. It's a new standard. And Drew Holiday, James Harden, Rudy Gobert, as
Oh man.
still funny as it is to say, those are the trades now that dictate the baseline. Like those three trades are the starting point for teams when it comes to those caliber of players now. That's just how it is. So is Donovan Mitchell better than Rudy Gobert? Yes. Is he better than Drew Holiday? Yes. Is he better than James Harden? Maybe now, yes, but in terms of star name, quality, caliber player at the time, etc., no. So okay, so we've reached the middle point. It's got to be between James Harden and between Drew Holiday and Rudy Gobert. What was the median in that? And that's where you have to go from it. So I think the Knicks have to give up a couple pieces, and they have to, like, in terms of players. I don't think I see them having to give up a couple players in this deal. And I get the idea of not emptying the farm, but just my thing, man, is I'm not.
PTSD. His
I
PTSD.
understand, but I'm not like I'm not losing sleep if Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickly are the two guys you lose here.
I don't know, Jurg.
Dude, they are not good defensive players.
But neither is Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, but I'll take Donovan Mitchell gives me 27 points per game potentially. Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin combined may not give me 27 points.
No, I
Emmanuel
get that,
Quickley,
but I do think I do think the IQ Obi tandem is real. I do now. Like I ultimately like I'm gonna convince myself that like all right, we got Donovan, so this doesn't matter. But like I think if you give up both of them, I think that's it. Because I actually believe in the hype of I think Obi, if you actually give him legitimate minutes and not Tibbs minutes, then he could do something.
but there's the problem. Tibbs is the coach. You got to
Yeah, that
remember
is
that.
the issue. But also,
You have to play with what you have, and that's why I'm saying I'm more than willing to get rid of both of those guys. Especially, look, man, I've said this once. I'm saying it again. Emmanuel Quickly is essentially a poor man's Lou Williams, and I'm not even like even at his peak. I understand he was a scorer. Lou Williams can't defend for jack anything. Emmanuel Quickly is essentially Kemba Walker for you guys. He's just a scoring guard who's a shit defensive player. You cannot.
I wouldn't say
win with
shit, bro. He's not
He's
shit.
not a good defensive player.
But he's not shit though.
Dude, you're not gonna. He's on the Karl Anthony Towns echelon of defense. Like,
No, but I think it's because of his size. But it's like Steph Curry. Like, is Steph Curry a shit defender? He's not a good defender, but he's not a shit defender.
no, I would argue he's actually become a better defender. I don't see Emmanuel.
Well, now he
becoming a
is.
good defender.
I still think, effort-wise, that's not shit. Like, I just think his size kind of just brings him down a hunch. But anyway, that's not the point. But yes,
sometimes it's all about like, hey, effort will get you $2 and a cup of coffee. Sometimes that.
but I did read that they also they have to at least include one of Rose, Fournier, or Randall in the deal.
Well,
They have to, I think,
money-wise, yeah.
for contracts. I mean, look, if I would love to keep Rose. I think they would keep Rose, actually. I think it would have to be either one of Fournier or Randall. I would hope it's Randall. I don't think the Jazz are interested in Randall. But also, I don't know the direction that they clearly want to tank, but, like, you still have your Mike Conleys of the world. Like, how do you... I want to look at this from the Jazz perspective for a bit. You trade Mitchell. You trade Gobert, right? Who's left? You have Conley left. You have Clarkson left. Bogdanovich. Are you trying to, like, fake compete to maybe sell tickets? Like, is that maybe the objective? Because I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, the real tension is that you're going to tank because you're getting all these picks. But, like, you're not that bad to a point where you're just like, wow, we really suck.
No, but Chris, you hit it on the head there. This is why rebuilding teams. This is why the Portland Trailblazers have tried to skirt around this whole Damian Lillard trade thing
Yeah.
for so long, because these medium tier markets, when you lose your stars, you lose your ticket sales, and I think that's part of the reason why. And to be fair here, they could end up trading Bogdanovich and Clarkson at the deadline. I think those are two guys that teams would be willing to trade for at the deadline. I don't think anyone's trading for Mike Conley. I just don't see Mike Conley being traded
Apparently, like, there was... I don't know how legitimate it was, but, like, they were looking... Actually, I have it right here. Give me a sec. It's... The Jazz have explored sign and trade scenarios of the Cavaliers that would send Mike Conley for Colin Sexton. That's a weird trade.
I think the only reason I could see Cleveland wanting that is they want to shift Garland to being more of a scorer,
Yeah.
and
But
Mike
they
Conley
re-signed Rubio.
right.
I don't know. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk about
But
the Cavs.
Cleveland's weird.
Yeah, but yeah, back to the Jazz. But what is the objective here?
No, you just said it. Fake compete for half a season
And
with a
then just
couple
shut
names
everyone down.
and then shut everyone down and eventually trade them if you can. And if Jordan Clarkson and Bogdanovich are healthy by the next trade deadline, they're going to get traded to teams that have the cap space and can contend. Like that. That's what it's all about. And then when it comes to that, you need to have some young pieces there. And like you said, like they have Jared Vanderbilt, they have the Walker Kessler, and they have Balmero. Like, okay, 3 decent young pieces, nothing special that you got from Minnesota. That's why, like, you bring up a good point in terms of like the picks versus players comparison of the Knicks are giving you a little bit more, but at the same time, like you also need to consider from Utah's perspective. And like I said, like if I'm saying this, I almost guarantee the Jazz are thinking this. Like, okay, Emmanuel Quickley is a good scorer, and what Obi Toppin like is a good dunker, and what like at the end of the day, they want young pieces to have on that team. They still need to be something. So the more one like if you just send me a package of one dimensional pieces, that's not as enticing.
But they're foundational young guys, at least. It's something to build upon. They're young. That's the thing. I think
Obi Toppin's
still...
not that young. Remember, he came out old.
But he's like, what? He's 23 now?
I thought he was 24. Or
I don't know. Whatever. He's still in his 20s. But regardless, there's still young building blocks. Again, I just... If I knew what the vision was for Utah, then I could give you a clear response. Because Quentin Grimes is also not as young as Emmanuel Quickley. Because Quentin Grimes did, I think, 3 years in college, I believe, too. So that's why... And also, like, I just don't think they'll take Randall. I think ultimately, if they're like the one big contract they would have to take would be Fournier. That's who I think they would go for.
Right.
But then you have Bogdanovich, right? And then you have your Clarksons.
And Malik Beasley, remember
And
that.
they have a lot of wing players right now. Like it's just it's weird from the Jazz perspective. I understand what they're going for, like just a treasure trove of picks.
I'll say this, and I think I know what your answer would be. If you had to give up Grimes,
Yeah.
but Randall was off the team, let's say it's Randall, Grimes, and just one more player,
Okay.
and the picks, would you do that?
So
if it means Randall's off the team.
So for Donovan Mitchell?
Yes.
So I'm giving up Grimes, Randall,
Yes.
whatever picks.
Like let's just say Utah is like, okay, we will take Julius Randle off your hands, but you need to give us Grimes and one more young player.
Do I have to? I get to pick the young player?
Sure, I'll let you pick.
So coincident. I mean, I would do it. I'm doing it. Yeah, for sure. I'm doing that, especially because if we could, I think if they trade Randall, they keep Obi.
Mm-hmm.
That
right.
Just position wise, I think they're starting forward. I think because you get a guard back, right, and you have Brunson, and you still have Rose, low key, I do think Cam Reddish would be gone too. There have been so much smoke about Reddish trade rumors. I'm just like, okay. I kind of believe in the stealing of Cam Reddish. I wouldn't want to give him up, but I think he would be gone.
I'd love him in Miami.
Yeah, I know. I know you would.
He would be so good in Miami.
Yeah, I know. But I would love to keep Cam. I think Cam would be the guy gone, but who I do think I would actually include quickly because there would just be a massive influx of guards at that point for the Knicks. There'd be a log jam because you would have Rose, you'd have I think Mitchell and Brunson could be interchangeable, like who handles the ball. Mitchell, Rose, um,
Brunson
Brunson,
and
and then you have
Fournier.
McBride, right? As like a
Mhm.
backup. But
Right.
like, I think quickly would get lost in the sauce. So you would have to, I think, you would have to give him up from a logistics standpoint because you just have too many guards at that point, too many undersized guards too, bro. Um, so yeah, so if wait, you said Grimes? Oh yeah, so Grimes,
Randall Grimes and one of the young players of
I
your
would have
team.
to go IQ.
Mhm.
It's not like I want to, out of the young guys, but I just think logistically, just it just wouldn't make sense for IQ to stay here at that point. It would break my heart, but it would just wouldn't make sense anymore. So yeah, and then you just do the pick swaps and whatnot. But I don't like if I have to give up like you said, Jurg. I think you brought up three young players. That would kill me, man. That would legitimately kill me. Like
I forgot the contract, to be fair, so just assume it's the contract and 2 young players is what I meant.
ultimately, I will sleep well with that happening. If that's the package, if it's Julius Randle, you get Julius Randle out of the way, and it's Emmanuel Quickly and Quentin Grimes, 3 picks, 2 pick swaps, whatever you want to do, or like 4 picks, or a bunch of them aren't our picks. Yeah, that's fine. I'm actually satisfied with that package because, I mean, look, ultimately, we have Donovan Mitchell. This is Donovan Mitchell we're talking about, and I saw a tweet. It was so accurate. Where it's just like, if the Knicks trade, I'm gonna read it actually. Let me get to it because it was so on point with how the Knicks are covered. It was if the Knicks trade for Mitchell, then Mitchell is a glorified Chuck shot maker, inconsistent. But if he gets traded to the Miami Heat just got an all star and are just that much closer to winning a championship. So like the double standards in like basketball are so crazy. The difference would be because like the Heat are an all class organization and it's like people like to shit on the Knicks. So the standard for what Mitchell can bring the team to like shifts OD. So if he goes to the Knicks, it's like how much is Donovan Mitchell really? How far is Donovan Mitchell really going to take you? Whereas if he goes to the Heat, it's just like, all right, Heat favorites in the East now, right? Um, and that's true. I think like there's some merit to that discussion, but I do think like there's just a level of disrespect added to the Knicks if that were the case. Just because like it's so easy to like be LOL Knicks. And yeah, man, I do think this will happen. Um, it's Thursday now. I mean, it could happen over the weekend. I don't think it'll happen like today or tomorrow. Something's definitely has to give though, bro. Like I think something does really have to happen. Like the NBA free agency or just like the NBA movement's just we need to get back to it, bro. Like I don't Kevin. Like now there's talks about like Kevin Durant and Kyrie possibly staying. Kyrie likes to. I love how like Kyrie likes to like put out reports himself saying, I wouldn't mind staying in Brooklyn. Yeah, bro, because no one wants your bitch ass. Obviously, you don't mind staying in Brooklyn. Get the hell out of here. And the Nets are saying, yeah, we're more than fine standing packed if we don't get any improved offers for KD. I don't know, man. I get that logic, but rarely does that happen. I just think everything's become so public now, and everything's kind of known around the league. They're not going to start training camp with KD or Kyrie. I just think it's too much smoke to happen in that case. But yeah, we just shifted from the Knicks to the Nets and that downfall. I don't know.
That typically happens on this
Yeah, but
podcast.
I don't see KD or Kyrie like here for training camp. And did you see the response, by the way? I'm pretty sure you saw it on Twitter, but excuse me, when they asked Cam Thomas about like Steve Nash saying he wants,
Right, yeah.
and first of all, Cam Thomas, what the fuck are you doing? Well, like, yeah, but that's a legitimate thing that you should improve on. He just rolled his eyes. I'm like, all right, guy, you're like 1 year into like the NBA. Calm down here, man. Like that was a pretty selfish response from Cam Thomas. I'm like, all right, dog, you're an average microwave scorer right now, and just like your second year. Why are you acting like you're hot shit?
Yo, he had that attitude. I'm like, okay, Kyrie and KD have infected
Yeah,
this
that's
team.
why, man.
Like,
It's
oh
so
my
it's
god.
disgusting, bro. This is why, man. This is why, like KD and Kyrie. This and I feel for like the young guys that are surrounded with them because yeah, they're great scores, historic scores, but like they infect their minds with this shit, bro. And then they're gonna probably like get older and have the same mindset. I mean, I don't think highly of Cam Thomas, but like
The
Come
fact
on,
that
dog.
Cam Thomas had the audacity to say that, like, it let me know that the Nets issues just run so deep that that whole team should be blown up. Like
Yeah.
Kyrie, like I understand they want to get fair value, but at this point, like you need to find a way to trade KD and Kyrie at this point. Like just send Kyrie to Los Angeles, let him live his fantasy world with all the Scientologists out in Los Angeles, California, and then just trade KD to wherever, get the best package possible, and we move from there at this point.
I think the Kyrie saga is gonna last for a bit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Russell Westbrook is not gonna get it done. It's
I
just
mean,
not.
I mean, but no one else is going to give up anything important because he's already saying like I'm probably going to leave to Los Angeles in a year from now. So like you're very limited there.
Which
And
team do you think would take a flyer on him for like a rental? As like a rental,
for 1 year,
half a year maybe.
no, they would they. Oh, I mean, in terms of him missing time due to injury,
No, well, because what if like they just sit Kyrie out for like the first? They pull off like a John Wall, and they're just like, let's find a trade partner for you. Obviously, it's gonna be easier to trade Kyrie than John Wall, but
right.
who do you think would take a flyer?
Look, Miami can't, Boston can't, Milwaukee can't, Philly can't, Toronto can't, Chicago can't, the Hawks no, Cleveland no, Charlotte.
Charlotte. I don't know what's going on in Charlotte, by the way.
Yeah. Well, their all season got messed up because someone wanted to be a dipshit on that team off the court.
That team is out of control.
Knicks, Washington, Indiana, Detroit, Orlando, Phoenix, Memphis, Golden State. I'm just reading through the teams, by the way. I'm not
Yeah.
like Dallas, Utah, Denver, Minnesota. I almost said Milwaukee again. Minnesota, New Orleans, the Clippers, the Spurs, Lakers, Kings, Blazers, Thunder, Rockets. I don't know, man. Like the Pelicans, maybe. But then you take the ball out of CJ McCollum's hands. I don't know. I like that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's much of a like this is a multi-time All-Star, 25-point per game player, and no one wants him. When does that ever happen?
That's when you gotta look at yourself in the mirror
Well,
and
no,
be like,
Chris. The problem is he does look at himself in the mirror and he thinks he's the greatest thing to walk the earth.
I really can't wait till he retires. I really cannot wait till Kyrie's done. I am so sick of this shit, bro. What a scumbag.
Yeah.
Yo, I think KD might go back to Golden State.
All right, we're starting nightmare scenarios. Let's go back to happy times for you. Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks, probably gonna happen within the next week or so. Hopefully, we hope. Just so we...
I hope, man. Let's get this done. Like, it'll rejuvenate the spirits of Knicks fans. What a man for Knicks fans. The Nets blow up, and then we get Donovan Mitchell, bro. Is that not a win? Is that not a complete win? Crosstown rival goes to shit. We get Donovan Mitchell. Like, come on, bro. This is just, it's so sweet, so bittersweet. Because for the last 3 years, I've heard, you know, Nets championship aspirations. Now nothing, bro. Now nothing. Now if KD and Kyrie end up staying, well, I mean, I think there is some likeliness to that. I think there's a chance that they could stay. I just don't see it happening. That would suck because I don't know, and they would milk the shit out of it, saying like, "Yo, bro, last dance type antics." But I really don't want it to happen. I hope they do get traded. I don't know, KD. This whole thing. The NBA is currently frozen. The offseason is legitimately frozen now because just the market for KD is, as Windhorse reported, it's not as crazy as the Nets thought it would be, and I understand why. Like, why would if it's true that they asked the Timberwolves for, was it Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and 4 first rounders? They are on drugs, crack in the 80s, bro. No shot, no shot. It's just he's a 34-year-old bro that he's Kevin Durant. He's one of the greatest of all time, but yeah, he's also like he also has a limited market. I'm not gonna trade for if I'm like the Cavs or something or the
Yeah.
Kings. Like it
Only
has to be a specific team.
only 4 or 5 teams can trade for KD. Here's the weird part. Only 4 or 5 teams can trade for KD, and like even still, you look at the assets on that team and is like, is it enough?
Exactly.
Like every single trade, and I say this as a Heat fan because I've seen people try to come up with mock trades for the Heat. Like every, excuse me, everything requires a third team. I haven't seen a single thing from the Nets showing anything but having to put a third team in there. And and then even with the Suns, when you think about it, because you can't have Simmons and Aiden on the same team because Aiden will essentially get a max via that sign and trade, so you can't have Aiden and Simmons. So I think you even still need a third team there. So just overall, wow, that rule the Nets that the NBA made for not having multiple players traded for with the designated rookie extension is really hurting Brooklyn here. But no, yeah, man, it's a complete mess, and kind of like you said, like Donovan Mitchell would be a shot in the arm of adrenaline. I think that would really bring back like the atmosphere of the Garden that you had for that one brief season. I think the Nets falling down is big, to say the very least. Like they're going to lose their superstars. They should probably. Sorry, not sorry. They should fire Steve Nash. He shouldn't have been head coach in the first place. He was
Yeah,
only
I also feel
there.
bad for him a little bit though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's not ideal for this to be like the way you get your first head coaching gig and maybe your only head coaching gig. So at the end of the day, we'll see how it goes. But I mean, yeah, you just say it yourself. If you're a Knicks fan right now, you're celebrating because you could potentially be on the way up. Your rival's on the way down, and all the Nets fans that said that New York was about to become a Nets town, they were really wrong.
I'm glad. Rest in shit, fuckers. All right, I think we've rambled on enough. We went from like talking about Donovan Mitchell to like other trade stuff. Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week, Jurg. Phenomenal job as always. Phenomenal job, especially for we only had 2 topics technically, and I know one of them had multiple topics within the topic. So but in NHL as well. So yeah, for 2 topics, we went on for an hour. But yeah, Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
Guys, you already know you can follow us at SomeWhatSports on Instagram. The way to follow us and to get updates. We post story updates when the pod is up. And we're gonna get a little bit more active. I know it's been a bit quiet because the end of the NBA and the Stanley Cup Finals, but we'll get active again on the IG. Don't you worry for all of us that follow. We're almost at 100 there, so a follow would be very appreciated. And of course, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel, Somewhat Space and Sports on YouTube, and then on Spotify, it's Somewhat Space and Sports. Once again, you see the beautiful red logo created by our fearless leader himself. Let us know. What do you like about the show? What do you want us to talk more about? Do you want us to talk a little bit more about tennis and golf? Probably not going to happen all that much, but we might try to find someone that can talk about that because we sure as hell can't. And we'll see. And like we kind of said last week, if you got working audio and you're a fan of any team in any sport, NBA, NHL, MLB, and NFL, because the NFL's coming back, we definitely will talk about baseball here in the coming weeks. Let us know. Hit us up on the IG page, and we can most certainly bring you on when we record, because we would love to bring other fandoms in here, talk about their teams, and give us. Is there something that we're talking about? Is there a Utah Jazz fan out there that listens to us that we're ignoring something about this whole Jazz Donovan Mitchell thing that we just can't realize because we're not Jazz fans? Let us know. But yeah, that's where you can find us with Somewhat Sports. Summer of 2022. It's been beautiful to start so far, and it's going to keep on getting better for the show.
Beautifully said as always, Jurg. And yes, we're going to be tackling the rest of the summer. Full force, baby. Full force. So, Dame, if you're out there, if you're still alive, we don't miss you. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate the shit out of you. And until next time, peace.